Comprehensive plans are all about community, and each of your cities has its own character, its own vision, its own direction. AWSC developed a series of short videos to help you prepare your GMA update. Each video contains a few key concepts and conversation starters that you can relate to your community. This segment looks at how do council, staff, and commission work together.
The updates of the comp plans are a huge opportunity for the community to really look at itself and evaluate what its future will be. And there are three major players in that, in addition to the citizens. And that are, the first is the city council, which really has the policy role. Their job is to set the policy and ultimately make the decision that has to be made for the community's future. Feeding into that decision are the staff who must prepare and evaluate the detail of the work, and the Planning Commission role. In most cities in the state of Washington, the Planning Commission role really is sort of a super public involvement agency in a sense. Their job is to hear the community, bring that input together, and then bring a recommendation forward to the City Council. Now, the relationship of these three is pretty critical because the policymakers, ultimately, the City Council, will make the decision. But it's not fair to the citizens or to the Planning Commission if there isn't some communication going on between the policymakers, Planning Commission, the citizens, and of course the staff. And the staff have to put all this together. So how that relationship works is really critical, and having some kind of dialogue and communication between those three entities in a very public way is very important, and I think informs the process. Ultimately, it's a richer, better process if there is that dialogue. That said, the City Council's role isn't to make the decision up front. It is to really inform, and examples are every community in the state of Washington, every city in the state of Washington will doubtless have some issues that they have to deal with for transportation and land use. How do you make those links? How do you put those together? Almost every city I can imagine has areas that they will need to explore in more depth, or there'll be critical issues that they recognize have to be addressed in this plan. Having some dialogue ahead of time, setting the frameworks ahead of time, that can be hugely helpful and inform and make a better product at the end. The most successful comp plan efforts are likely to be informed first by everyone understanding what their role is. The role of the City Council is to set policy, and I'm going to come back to that in a second, but the role of the Planning Commission is to really be the eyes and the ears and the senses of the community and take aboard all of the input from the broad community. And that means reaching out. The role of the staff is to help that outreach take place and make sure that the elements of the community are heard, or at least invited to the table to be heard, and also to help craft the actual documents and drafting, and to help understand what the law requires in that process. So when we define the roles, defining them up front so that everybody understands them, the public, the staff, the commission, and ultimately the council, that's really critical. If everyone understands those roles, now the communication that really will inform this plan can take place. And it is fair to everyone for the City Council to be able to express at a very high altitude what the major issues are, whether they're transportation issues or economic development issues or some other issues, design issues, waterfront issues, whatever they are. They need to be identified up front so that there's an expectation that they will be addressed in this process. The Planning Commission's role is really to take that high-level input and add to that what the community is bringing forward to help meld and craft and form that work, and then bring that back to, ultimately, back to the City Council. And it's probably also important for there to be some dialogue going back and forth. It's kind of not too much, not too little, but some dialogue going back and forth between the Commission and the public and the Council as this process unfolds. Ultimately, it comes back to the Council for the decision. The Planning Commission doesn't make the decision. They make a recommendation. And the commissioners need to be able at some point then to let go of that, send it to the council, and ultimately that decision gets made. Overarching, this is all done in the public eye. It all has to be very upfront and in the public eye so that the public gets to see and understand the natural tensions and the natural trade-offs between these issues. When we look at the roles of all of the players that we've talked about earlier, starting with the City Council, the City Council does not need to know all the details of those plans, but they do need to know the policy intent, and they do need to know that those plan elements serve the policy intent. The staff need to know the details. And the Planning Commission also needs to know a certain level, somewhere I guess in between a very, very high policy and the into the weeds of the details. But there needs to be enough understanding so that the community and the public, the developers, everyone, all of the community elements have a chance to interact. So there is an integration, but it's a different piece and it's a different level of understanding at each of those levels, at the public level, at the Planning Commission level, and at the City Council level.